Thanks for coming to the panel, Ethics Across the Curriculum, Exploration by an Interdisciplinary Academic Community of Newbury. My name is Vicki Nunez. I'm an assistant professor at the School of Education at Brooklyn College. And I'm going to very briefly introduce our panelists today. And then we're going to hear a brief introduction to the idea behind the panel. So our first speaker today will be Lisa Novemsky, also a professor at Brooklyn College. She's a professor of science education, working with childhood and early childhood educators. She has 35 years experience as a teacher, a professor, a researcher, and a troubadour. So a couple of our panelists today are musicians as well. Our second presenter today is Ina Rosenspitz, a physician, a neurologist, and a neurorehabilitation specialist. She is a faculty member at the NYU Clinical Neurology Program. She works as a psychotherapist and a psychoanalyst as well. And she recently completed the science education program at Brooklyn College School of Education. Her thesis was on the place of ethics in K12 science education. Our third speaker is Robinson Lilienthal. He is a philosopher, has done work in religious studies and applied ethics for over 30 years, much of that time at Rutgers. He has an interest in social sciences, especially in psychoanalysis. Barbara Rosenfeld is our fourth speaker. Barbara has been an assistant professor in the School of Education since 2001. She teaches graduate classes in educational technology and mathematics. And our final speaker today is Victoria Grinman. She's a licensed social worker at the Summit School, a school in Queens, New York. She attended Delphi University as an undergraduate and completed a master's in social work at Columbia University.
Okay, so I have the honors of introducing the whole idea of the panel because it first became my idea of my master's thesis at Brooklyn College when I was doing the master in science education program, and it came to my mind that science teachers think that we, as science teachers, don't have anything to do with ethics. All these unethical behaviors of scientists and other people that are not scientists, other professionals, are all over the media and all over the press, but it seemed like the science teachers don't feel comfortable talking about ethics in their classroom. They think it's social studies teachers supposed to do that. And social studies teachers don't have enough knowledge in science to introduce the examples of science. So that's how I started to look into the research, and then Professor Novemsky was my thesis advisor, and she said that she was some years ago in the movements that we're trying to introduce ethics in pre-college education, but for some reason it never happened. So that's how we decided that when this conference came across, and it was about collaboration of different professionals, about collaboration and research, I thought that to bring as many collaborators that can bring their background and reflect on it would be the best way. Although each of us now have very little time to talk and a lot of time to, things to say, but I thought that to bring as many people as possible would be the most beneficial for the purpose of the whole panel, and so that's where we are. So Dr. Novemsky will be the first one to go.
Okay. Traditionally, ethics has been in a branch of philosophy from Aristotle on, at least in Western tradition. And we've tended to think of philosophy as something we learn about until we're very proficient, and then we can finally do philosophy. Well, just like the new movement in science education is not so new anymore, instead of learning about science, or sometimes instead of learning about science, we do science. Learning by apprenticeship, it's a model in all kinds of education now. So the same thing with philosophy. Doing ethics is really equivalent to doing thinking, doing inquiry. Doing ethical inquiry is something that can be done in a classroom, in a community of inquiry. Most of what I'm saying will be in the spirit of Matthew Lipman, who was a professor of philosophy, first at Columbia, then first at City College, then Columbia, then Montclair State, where the Institute for the Advancement of Philosophy for Children. And it came upon him when he was looking at his son's nursery school, that the one thing that was missing was kind of the teaching of thinking and reasonableness and what would lead to ethical thinking. And so he started his whole project, which is now actually bigger in a lot of other countries, although it's housed in New Jersey. It's bigger in Iceland and Brazil and other countries than it is around here. But in which children engage in a community. Well, the community of inquiry is not just a philosophy idea. Community of inquiry is good teaching practice in any field. And engaging in thinking, and as your thinking gets clearer, it doesn't matter if you're doing science or social studies or anything else. If you're asking the big questions, the philosophical questions, you end up doing ethics along with whatever else you're doing. It's contextual and it's integrated. And I will stop there so other people can